Welcome to another episode of EV Rider. Today I'm in search of more comfort. So what I've done, I bought a new set of handlebar risers. The idea is once they're installed, it's going to pull back my handlebar just a little bit to take some of the pressure off my forearms and my neck on longer rides. So right now, once I hit about the 100-mile mark on a ride, I start getting pretty stiff and sore, and I'm thinking with those handlebar risers and a more relaxed stance, that may help some. So let's get to it. The very first thing you're going to need is a T45 Torx. What this is going to do is allow you to go ahead and loosen the factory handlebar clamps. Before you get started, the very first thing to do is think about protecting your motorcycle, because when you do go ahead and loosen up these handlebar clamps, you're going to need to pull them forward, and they're probably going to fall forward when you get started. For this project, I purchased something that was recommended by a fellow Zero F owner, a Rox bar back riser, 1.5-inch rise for 1 1/8 handlebars in black. So here's what I'm going to be working with. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. First by loosening the factory handlebar. And looks like it's torqued nicely, but not so tight that I can't get it undone. I'm taking my time because what I don't want to do is strip these. That would be no fun. So I'm in no rush. I know a lot of guys would use a drill, because that would certainly speed up the process, but that's okay. Now, I don't need to bore you guys, so you can basically see this procedure. I'm going to go ahead and cut to another shot after I get the rest of them off. Okay, so as you can see, I've gotten them all off. So what I'm going to do now is just carefully lift this. No big deal, as you can see. So now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to carefully lift the handlebar onto my tank area. Now, what other Zero owners have said is that the existing cables are long enough for this riser, but what's going to have to probably happen is I am going to probably have to cut my zip ties to allow for a little bit more play to accommodate the extra rise that this is going to have. Okay, so here comes the first moment of truth. I'm going to go ahead and lift this up, and no question about it, it's a little tight. Yep, for sure. So I think rather than lift it on my tank, what I'm going to do, I'm going to lift it up. Instead, I'm going to lift it up here because I don't want to bother taking off my windshield. So what I'm going to do before I do that is get some protection for my gauge cluster to make sure I don't damage it. So let's go ahead and get another towel, and we're going to go ahead and get that through the gauge cluster, and then what I'll do, I'll lift the handlebar back. So loop this through. And now I think I'll probably be able to go ahead and lift this forward. And yes, I can. That worked about the way I thought it would. So next I've got the risers out, and just getting them undone real quick so we can set them in. Okay, and there is the first of the risers, the first half, and I believe what's going to happen is, in my case, I'm going to want my riser to come forward, so I'm going to be setting it in about like that. So it looks like that'll work. So I'll be torquing that down. Now they've given me their own torque, or they've given me their own screw, but I'll probably use the zeros again. We'll see how it goes. I may use one or the other. In theory, it should be the same threading, so either will probably work. Okay, now that I've got the riser apart, I'm going to go ahead and you can put it one of two ways. In my case, I want to have the handlebar come toward me. So in my case, I'm going to have it, well, as you can see in the video. So next, I'm going to go ahead and get these in place. So you can see right here, they gave me the screws that I need. Okay, and I'm not going to make you guys watch all these go in. What I may end up doing, I may tighten these up just a wee bit with a drill, or I may hand tighten them. I'll see as it goes. Well, so far so good. I'm on my last one as far as getting the first part of the riser in place. I'm relieved to say that so far everything has gone exactly the way I would hope that it would. Seems pretty straightforward. And we're just getting it nice and torqued. Next, I'm going to go ahead and snip the zip ties, so I got a little bit more space for those cables. And of course, that's always one of the bigger tricks. But got to get the zip ties out of there. There's one of them. Okay, well, I'm happy to say I got my zip ties off. There was the second one that I did. Again, didn't want to bore you with what you didn't need to see. So now what we're going to do, and this is, let's keep our fingers crossed this goes the way we hope. We're going to try to carefully lift this up onto the new riser and see what happens. Hopefully it will work as others have said it would work. So, okay, we're going up and over, and as expected, it is kind of taut. But there you go, it's in. Now, of course, when I get done, I'm going to have to readjust the windshield, of course. But the good news is it went in. And again, from what other Zero owners have said, although it's taut, there is enough room for everything. And then what I'll probably do when I get done, I'll go ahead and put fresh zip ties on. And I'll also be readjusting my windscreen to get it the way I want it. So now we get to the fun part, finishing up. Now, Rox does give you a pair of clamps, fasteners, whatever you want to call this. But I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to reuse my stock Zero clamp because, frankly, I like the look of it. I like having that Zero logo. If I run into any problems, I can always go over to this, but I'm going to see if this works first. So let's see. Looks like it's going to. I don't see any obvious deal breaker. And again, I have heard at least one other Zero owner has done this same project, so I have every reason to think it's going to work. Let's see. Looks like it is. Looks like the factory Zero fasteners are going in as expected. And obviously I've got to torque those down, but it looks like they're going to go through. This one's a little tight, so it may not be a perfect fit. If it's not, I can always go over to what they gave me. Okay, in the end, I decided to go with the Rox after all. It was proving to be a little bit tight, and I didn't want to take any chance of ruining any threads. Plus, the more I thought about it, I have a Garmin that I use the vast majority of the time. And when I think of the clamp, really the bottom line is I'll have a better experience with this anyway. So I really almost always have this covered up except when I'm somewhere where things are a little sketchy and I lock it away. Okay, now I'm pretty much to the very final piece of the puzzle. I'm going to go ahead and get on the bike before I torque it all down and just sort of feel about where I want it. So I can pull it forward a little bit and so on. So and also I'm kind of just checking my cables to make sure they're not going to be too tight. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to torque it up and take it for a ride. I think I've pretty much got it where I want it. So it's time to torque it down. So I'm happy to say I'm done with this project. Until I get on the bike and ride around, of course, I can't really know if it's going to make a difference, but the bottom line, it went just as expected. Didn't take very long, as you can see from this video. The only thing I did was pause it here or there while I torqued things up. The company that makes this, Rox, they claim you can do an installation like this in 3 minutes. It certainly took me longer than that, but I'm not a mechanic. I'm just a guy that likes riding motorcycles, so I don't doubt that somebody that does this for a living can do it in 3 minutes. For most of it, it's probably going to take more in the neighborhood of 20 minutes. But the bottom line, if you're comfortable around tools, I believe this is a project you can pull off. Now, I say that as just a guy that rides motorcycles. I am no mechanic, so keep that in mind. I would say I probably spent the most time, frankly, tracking down a T45 socket to go ahead and get the right fitment for my Zero factory bars to get them off. I went to my local Ace Hardware store, looked around, got what I needed, and I was on my way. So with that, I'm going to wrap up this episode of EV Rider. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, please give me a like and subscribe so I can bring you more how-to videos and bring you more adventures about electric motorcycling and the people and places in Florida that make the Sunshine State special. See you the next time.